Welcome back to Fancastic. We have another guest this week, Patrick Ball from Aprio. Hi, Patrick.
Hi, Christy.
Hey, and Christine, of course, our resident expert. Christine, good to see you again.
Nice to see you guys too.
This is going to be a great episode. I love that we're getting more guests on. So, you and Patrick are going to talk about all things CAS today. I think a couple of the things are the evolution of tech stack, maybe the need to upskill staff, building that engine for a profitable, successful CAS practice. And who better to tell it than someone at a firm who's actually doing this? And that's you, Patrick. You're our resident expert today.
Well, it's the first time for everything, I guess. So,
That's not true.
Well,
Thanks, Christy.
yes, nobody tuned in to listen to me. I'm going to leave the two of you to have a brilliant conversation, and I will be back.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, guys.
awesome. Thanks, Christy.
So, what I love about this is, Patrick, being one of our guests, you're on the tech side, and everything right now is just tech. So, if you would just give everybody just your background and your role.
Yeah. I feel like being in the tech side, I have to start out by saying this. My name is Patrick Ball, and I'm a CPA by trade. So you don't see that too often in the tech side of where I am now in the evolution of my career. I've had a number of years starting out in SEC reporting at a publicly traded company to private equity, family office, before getting into the client accounting services world with my previous company, et cetera. So I'm helping to develop technology to make that easier as well. So I kind of got sucked into the side, even though I was doing the actual accounting work for the clients and seeing how can we make this better before joining Aprio, working in our dental cast team before transitioning to technology advisory. And I'm now our Intuit practice leader here and a director in our technology advisory department.
That's awesome. Awesome. Great background. I know you and I worked together for a long time, and so I'm really just excited and honored to have you here. Um, Before we jump into the questions, I know you are on a lot of just different councils, and what you guys are doing within Aprio is fantastic. What's the common theme? What are you hearing about from all the firms at council or just internal as well?
Yeah, it's always been AI. I think for the last 2 years. How are you using it? How are we using it? How is it embedded in this product, in that product, in that product? How are you bringing it together? Are you bringing it together? There's so much out there, and it's all about how do I make my team better by using it because we have the traditional ways we've done things. The products themselves are evolving at a pace we haven't seen before, and how do you start to change your own processes to incorporate that for a more efficient today and a better tomorrow for our teams for that work life balance we're always talking about?
Right? And AI is like, I just feel like we're AI fatigued right now, and it's just coming at everybody from every possible angle. So, in like, with either your advice or what you guys are talking about in council, like, what's your biggest like recommendation of how firms start to even try to implement process, understand everything?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question, Christine. One we get all the time because we're so large, right? With Aprio, it's like you only can do it in certain pockets at a time when trying to formally change an entire process versus, smaller firm could could effectively do it better and faster for everybody and have that person that figures it out. So for us, it's about having those key people that know how to use emerging technologies out there, kind of leading the way for others making the mistakes. There are people that are okay with making the mistakes out there, and then that's where the process, the kind of formalization of it, if you will, and kind of really taking those rough around the edges approaches and smoothing it out and making it digestible for everybody else. Now, the enforcement side of it, or adoption, if you're going to use a more gentle term,
Yeah.
over there is always a tricky part. So, how do you make sure people are using it and using it right? And client success will kind of tell you that story, right? Like, there's happy clients, and you'll see relief on team members' face when they have more time and they can spend time doing the things they love with the people they love outside of work as well.
Yeah. So what are you seeing in the vendor space, of emerging products or everything's a shiny new object, but what are you seeing that is really impressing you? And then also, if you would also say, what do you think that there's still this gap too?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. When I think about the vendors, I mean, I might be unique in this, right? And I say that because I look for partners out there that are going to develop with us because, going back to the processes, these things are involved. We can't just change our processes overnight for the whole team, right? Like, and that's a challenge when we talk about, okay, this software and this software. And with, Herb Keller, I believe, who said it from reading them, one of the books. If we take care of our employees, they'll take care of our clients, right? And we don't want to have a team member have to learn 5 different AP systems out there just to do their daily job, and that's a lot to ask of anybody. So looking into what's next in the vendor space, it's the partners we already have that I'm looking at and say what can be next. What are we seeing out there in the market together? Because everybody knows, as you know this, and now we get connected to, like, everybody knows everybody. It's a small community, or feels like a small community in a large world, with CAS and the vendors, that they all kind of know what each other's up to and are trying to develop some of the same things. See ramp and build, like, over time, right? They kind of coming out and merging together. So I'm looking for those things that do fill those gaps, right? And if it can be built into a system that we're already using, like thinking of what's in QuickBooks, what's in into Enterprise Suite, what's in Zero, what are they developing? Is there something out there that has to do it, that does it better, right? Then it's going to get me inside of the system. That's something worth looking at. Or conversely, is what is working inside of our current systems, is that for a niche client, kind of that's in outside of the box, the 80/20 rule, if you will. So when I look at vendors, we're trying to find those things that are addressing the gaps out there. Thinking about people like Basis out there that are addressing gaps in the marketplace. What's integrating with software that we're already using and doing something that hasn't been done before. You look at QuickBooks Online that obviously integrates with so many things, APs in there, but you know what's going to help me with capacity planning. Is that something that's out there for us as well, like thinking of how that's going to integrate with all of the management of all of our client accounting services out here as well.
Well, and it's a race, right? Because every product's trying to solve for as much as possible. And so I feel like right now it's, the tech stack is getting narrower because a lot of the different products are offering more for what maybe we needed this product for, workflow, and this product for, whatever. Is that what you're seeing too?
I'm seeing that as well, and it goes back to, I'll call it a theory that I have right now. That first mover theory, I guess you could say, and it didn't necessarily work out for MySpace, where Facebook came along. But if you're big enough, you're going to continue to hold that client as long as you do enough right, and that's going to give you the ability to go and develop these things inside of your system, and be able to have your clients, not necessarily like the CAS clients, but the software company's clients, start to migrate into your system with what you're developing as well. So you have that advantage, and it's similar things we try and do at an accounting firm too. Of it's land and expand, and that's what they're doing in the software world by creating these things. Even if they're not as good as a build.com, they're good enough for this
Yeah.
in the same system, and it
Right.
integrates in other ways that the third party vendor app can't do.
Right. Agreed. Agreed. So, as you've built your practice within the firm, it's hard, right? I mean, when we think about talent and we think about technology and understanding this space, it's a
Yeah.
it's a tough space. How have you best, and I'm sure you still struggle because I mean everybody does, but how have you best built your team based on where are you finding the people? How are you upskilling them even from the tech and the technical aspects together?
Yeah, and fantastic question. And getting back to my background, you heard my background. It's more corporate than it is public accounting.
Yeah.
And so when I was building my department here inside of Aprio, I set it up using those examples to where we have a dedicated sales function. We have implementation and client success. And then I have a team of solutions architects that work closely with vendors, providing product feedback as well, how to improve the product. And they're also responsible for helping to put tech stacks together for clients, because we don't just serve CAS clients that are with us. We also serve our tax clients where we're not the ones operating inside of the software. So there's a lot more freedom in what the choice is versus with CAS. Again, going back to that point, you want to have that tech stack that team can handle. And so I've built it more like a corporation out there, where I have my dedicated sales function, implementation, client success, and then solutions architects who kind of go over all of those buckets just to make sure everything works, whether they're in the sales function helping to explain the technical piece, or they're actually helping with implementations on some of the more complex and the integrations that are going on as well. So that's how I've really stood that up. And that client success piece is so critical to it, because they're the ones that know how to use the software for the long term too, and support not only internal Aprio clients, but also our external clients as well, that have hired us to really kind of, I don't want to say look over their shoulder, but work with them to improve their understanding of the product.
So would you say that kind of like your background, that most of your team were kind of on the technical accounting side that have moved over to the tech space, or do you see that there's some people that can come in from the complete tech angle and learn this?
Yeah, so that's a great question. I realize I didn't quite answer that in the first one either. But from each of the departments, because we grew really, really fast. I mean, really fast, and had a lot of recs to fill. So I knew I needed to hire for strengths, and the accounting background in certain roles wasn't as critical as it was in others. So we'll start from the back. Client success had to have that accounting understanding, because at the end of the day, whether we're working with a Fathom, Bill, Ramp, QuickBooks, they needed to understand what is the question behind the question. They're asking about the product as well. Like, how do I do this in here? Well, it's not just how do you do this. How do you do this the best way? So
Right.
they're having had experience in doing these things inside of QuickBooks. Whereas our implementation team, we really needed people that could communicate with the client, project manage, set up things, and learn about the system as they go, while leaning on our client success team to help them fill in some of the gaps as well. Solutions architects, similar to the client success team, had that background and had the expertise in everything that plugged into it as well. So talking about all the other third party vendors, so they've been through those implementations, talked about them. So they really understood like what the goal is and how a tech stack really truly comes together as well. And then our sales team had, at a CPA firm, we needed people that knew how to sell as well. It's not necessarily the first thing you think about as a CPA is that person knows how to sell. So we needed some people that were dedicated to sales and um, aggressive with the follow ups and the cadence, and making sure that things were tracked and could talk enough to the product. And then again, bring in the solutions architects when they didn't know the technical answers as well. So, and that comes
Right.
from the technology industry that I worked in um, early in my career, seeing that kind of partnering together as well.
Yep. Yep. I love it. So let's pivot, to again, we're inundated with the vendor, kind of sales pitch. And and I will just say too, what we do in Infinite Ties is we're very adamant about how vendors come to our space to sell, because it needs to be completely curated for what the CAS pain points are specifically. And not, we don't care about all of these other points
Right.
in your presentation. So we're working really hard to just curate that. So when, given that you're at a large firm and everybody wants to talk to you, what would you say are attributes that earns them a meeting with you, a seat at the table with you or your team?
Yeah. So when I think about the seat at the table, I think about the long term, right? Like, and there's getting to the welcome booth, right? Like that's that introduction, and we make so many, connections at these conferences that we constantly see each other at. So seeing that person goes a long way, especially in the post COVID era where, I mean, I work remote, so I'm on this thing constantly, but like seeing somebody in person, giving them a hug, shaking their hand goes a long way to establishing that next step. But that's not always possible, right? Because things happen in between every Intuit Connect, every digital CPA as well. So, a lot of these vendors already have a relationship with somebody in the firm, especially with Aprio, where we're acquiring firms, somebody's moving over from another firm. So me knowing that person and vouching that will at least get a conversation out of it most of the time. But it's what happens in that conversation uh, is really what determines what's next, right? And we like partnerships. I also like to not be sold to.
Yeah.
Really, like, I mean, I'm the person that goes to the store and no, 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 I don't need help. I'll find what I need and I'll ask a question if I have that question. I might even be, chat GPTing on my phone the question before I ask the actual salesperson as well. So when I think about it that way, I don't want to be sold to, but to your point, Christine, like I want to know, I want to solve for pain points, and I wanted to solve for my clients' pain points. But through the sales process of into Enterprise Suite, everything we learned, we don't just need to know the pain points. We also need to know it's working in the old system because we can't just wipe that out as well. So what functionality um, is comparable to what they might be using right now? And I say that in a good way, as in you're not going to lose it. Because the number one thing that turns me off is when somebody starts comparing themselves in a better light to the last system or whatever system you're on. Oh, we do this better. We do this better. Turns me off. I just don't necessarily need to hear that we do this better trashing of somebody else's system. I want to, make sure that it's going to be good for my clients. And you're not going to turn around and do that to me too, right? Like in the next breath, if we're not selling enough of that product.
So can you walk us through that a little bit when you say, um, what would a successful sales call look like to you? What are those attributes when you don't want to be sold to?
Yeah. I mean, so that successful sales call, we're going to get down and I think about it in two worlds. Like when somebody is selling to me, is it that's the angle we're taking, right? Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
when somebody is selling to me, it's usually over multiple calls, right? Like I first want to establish that relationship before even seeing the product and getting that feel of that person as well. So because these are so relationship driven, I want to know how they talk and what they're interested in and get to know people personally as well. And then let's talk about the product and what successes they're seeing in the market, what industries they focus on. Um, what's their biggest base. You can start to focus on an industry but not have had your foothold in it. And that's something that we can work with, that we can take to industry leaders here at Aprio, if that relationship is good, and get them introduced to those right parties that really ultimately help make the decision. What is the tech stack? What's right for my clients? And then going to see that demo in the next one, having that, in between meetings, time to do the additional research that, we heard about in that initial call. So why don't we go ahead and take the demo, bring in some more parties as well to the demo stage as well, because I like to have that kind of um, different set of eyes on the product as well. I mean, I'll use the construction industry as an example, which I've had a lot of history with over the last um, 12 to 14 months. It's a different beast when you talk
Cool.
about accounting, right? Like, it's definitely different than my technology background, family office background, dental professional services background. So I'm looking at things, or how do I make this simple? Whereas Melanie Geist, our construction leader, is like, is this going to work in the most complicated of construction industries? Because I mean, sub vertical fits fits in that industry perfect. Like roofing is way different than somebody's putting in the windows, than putting in carpet, things like that, which is important to me to have those extra set of eyes for a good call. And then it's a huddle up after that and say, what did you think? What needs to be improved about the product, the pitch? What would you like to get out of this? This is, all happening in terms of what's your replacement plan if it's going to replace something? Because everybody thinks about the product and it's the next, oh, this is great. Okay, well, you've got 500 clients over here on product A. How are you going to get them off? to product B if you want that to be the critical part of filling your tech stack.
I love that. And what I heard you say that resonated most was the relationship, which I think, you know, if vendors, just take that advice, it's that relationship from the get-go. And it's interesting that you say, I just want that first call to be the relationship, which is what our clients are wanting from us. And it's like just everything that we're all wanting from each other. Um, so I love that. And I think about when I and we meet with a ton of vendors, but when we, talk to vendors and they haven't asked one question before they start their pitch to understand where we are and where like basically our skill set and knowledge is of just technology in general. Because I'm like, how do you even know where to start?
Right. Like, it's like, so can you explain to me coding? No, 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 I can't. Technology is in my title, but no, I cannot code. Like I get exactly what you mean. Like it has to be about that relationship because in your world, we're trying to match up our clients with the right technology. Sometimes that comes down to their relationship too. You know?
Right. 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 And so I love that piece because everything take out all of the noise and take out everything, and take out AI and you're still right back to relationships.
Yeah.
Even
And,
if you're selling AI, it still starts with their relationship.
right. And it's fun. It's funny. Like you're going to get me on a different topic here, but I think AI should allow us to have better relationships with people as the human component now more important than ever with what we think it's going to be able to do in the world of accounting. It's going to drive that human component even further, and it should allow us the time to better form relationships.
Exactly. I love that because it's all I always say AI should never replace relationships. But what I love about this spin is that we're buying AI and it should also still be based on relationships. I love it's just a really interesting concept. Um and when you even dig further into AI, we've talked to some firms and different people, and I love this concept where they're putting in here was the meeting, here's what the client said, here's what I said. What should I have asked? What should I have adjusted? What could I have done better?
Yes, yes. I mean, it's got to be used as a tool. Thinking about controls like preventative and detective, right? Like it's got to be used as preventative and detective. Like, what could I have done better? But like, I had this thought the other. How are knowledge bases going to change? How we traditionally write processes and put them into task management with links out to make sure that they're there. How are these knowledge bases going to change to really be so conversational and training? Can I give people prompts that they need to ask and then they can read about and then they can dive in to on the training of all these things that we've seen that we've fixed with, I'll say, duct tape, being from the South, if you can't
Right.
tell at this point. You know, in a QBO to solve problems, right? Where it's like, yeah, that's not the out of the box way, but the duct tape way works. How do I pass that on to the next person, the next generation, without
Right.
typing out a process document like we always had to do? And then it became Scribe. How does that get to be AI? And really, I like to call it like we are sewing the quilt. It's all patches that we're putting together to form all these potential answers to solutions as well.
I love that. I love that. Yes, we could sit and talk about tech all day, right? But and
We
it
done
is
it.
so, I know too, a lot of firms right now, obviously tech is the main thing, but few have built a practice, specifically around CAS from the ground up. So, how are you structurally building your firm to be that tech enablement arm for your clients and for your team?
Yeah, yeah, great question. So Aprio is split up really over the big five practice areas that we have between assurance, tax, wealth management, advisory, and then client accounting services. We're really big on previously called stewardship model, now client relationship model. In that land and expand world. So we really have to work as a team. So I sit currently now under the advisory side since we're focused, and now I'm primarily focused on into it and everything that plugs into it, right? So all the third party apps as well. So building that tech stack out for our clients. But the questions about Intuit come to me and my team from across the organization. So we're able to support all of our Aprio team members, and we will send out all the product updates that are going on, trying to keep everybody aware of the things that I'm privy to on council, as well as our close relationship. And we broke it out so that we could really drive it as a business to not just the CAS world, but to these tax clients. Because with Into Enterprise Suite, what we found, like, yes, there are clients that the efficiencies that we gain from using it are in the CAS world, but there are clients out there that have their own accounting departments as well, that they would gain the efficiencies from that, and it would allow us insight into their world to better take care of them, their holistic business, through all of our verticals. So we became a way of tying things together throughout our organization by focusing on, Intuit and everything that plugs into it. So again, Fathom, really, really close with them, and lots of clients on that, and other software out there. But that was one of the driving decisions. We saw an opportunity for a business and a way to continue to support our clients directly beyond just the reach of CAS, while still supporting our CAS clients as well.
Right, because you are supporting all those other business lines in these aspects too, with that which is huge.
Yeah, correct, correct. And I mean, our clients have questions about quick, or I would say, not our clients yet, right? But our tax team's clients have questions about QuickBooks that they can't answer.
Right.
Similar, like advisory, thinking about going through Q of E and what's best for the next system and things like that too. Like, we're able to help answer those questions, thinking about that next event, and ultimately, provide even those teams what's the best method of cleaning these things up that they haven't had knowledge of in the past, because they're just there working with what's in front of them.
Awesome. So, Patrick, we ask this question of all of our guests because it's all about learning, right? And what we could have all done different, and all of the mistakes we've made along the way, which I'm very vocal about all the mistakes I've made. But what would be your biggest learning takeaway mistake that you made that you could share with the listeners?
I'm not sure I make mistake. I'm just kidding. Kidding. No, I mean, one that jumps to mind is pricing in the early days. Especially starting a new department, right? So we're young, we're hungry, we want business, and you're giving deals. So that pricing and the scoping, finding that right mix it's always going to take balance. I think we were a little more off than I wanted to be in the early stages, especially because one of the industries you were focused on was that construction world. And even though at this point I had 6 months of experience, there's still things like I myself personally was looking for, or not expecting so much passionate care about on the construction side, that haven't mattered to others in the past. So finding that right mix of scoping and pricing um, would really be what I would, say was the biggest mistake. I think we were on the underside more than we should have been, but that's part of the learning curve, and just making sure that we could get money in the door, and seeing how viable everything was at the same time.
Definitely a learning curve because you don't know what you don't know until you get into it, right? And I think that that's just part of part of it. But well, so in closing, I know again you in this space that you're inundated with technology. What is your key takeaway that you would just want people to consider or share, or your thoughts, or what you're focusing on that you want to leave with listeners?
Yeah, I mean, we touched on it here, but think about the humans in this and the effects. If you take care of your staff, your people, they will take care of your clients. We can't roll out process change every day, or else what am I supposed to be doing today? And you want to be very methodical and smart about that with the technology that's coming in. So making sure that you're taking care of the humans, you're limiting where that AI potentially is, which one you're doing. So it's not like you have to use 10 different systems to get the answer, and now they're all conflicting with each other because they only have half the story, right? So thinking about that effect on the team, because that they're going to be the ones that take care of the clients, and ultimately they're the ones that pay your bills, right? So let's think about the team, think about the people, and controlling that pace of change in a world where it's changing rapidly right now. I like a smooth ride when I'm surfing versus falling over off the wave.
I love that. So at the end of the day, tech is still humans and still relationships, and we
Uh,
cannot get away.
100%. I mean, as much as I talk about avoiding the salesperson, right? Like, and being on Chat GPT, there's still a relationship to be built in this business world that, you know, Nick Saban talks about it, want to be transformational leadership. So transformational relationships, not just transactional relationships.
Exactly.
Amazing. Like, dang, guys, that was so good. That was so much information. Christine, any final words to wrap up this segment?
No, I'm just still reveling in the whole, you know, the, you can't even sell tech without the relationship. And so I just want
Yeah.
that.
I mean, not to me at least, right?
Yeah.
Like, but I have to make decisions for
I
others.
don't, I think, I just don't know that anyone's ever just really articulated it in a way that you did. And so I just love that takeaway for everybody and all the listeners. So, yeah, I just am very honored and thank you again, Patrick,
Thank
for
y'all.
joining us.
Thank
Yeah.
y'all. I love this. Hopefully it was good. I mean, I always like to say, did I do good? Did I do good? Yeah, there's that. That's me.
You did
But yeah,
great.
I always love it when the final theme is let's be human led. Let's not forget the humans because we are a relationship based profession. So that makes total sense. Patrick, thank you for being here and bringing all your sage insights and wisdom. Christine, of course, you're always amazing. Listeners, please come back again when we continue to deliver CAS Gold. That is our promise to you. And this is Fancastic.